Hello my loves. I went to the Yarra Valley last week with my matriarch, and my matriarch is just my sole grandparent alive, my grandmother, and it was such a wonderful experience, and I learnt so much from my grandmother about just enjoying being in the moment and sensuality and all the things that I'm really passionate about. And I wasn't really expecting that because she's lived a very different life to me. She has very different tendencies to me. She has an affinity with like numbers. She was a pharmacist. She loves numbers, math, science. But yeah, I really discovered over this few hours that we spent together that at the end of life, all you have really is sensuality and what's in the moment. So the idea that like spending time with my matriarch was going to be of use to me or serve me in some way was suggested by my mentor, Katie. And it was interesting. So she sort of said something along the lines of like staying with your matriarch or spending time with your matriarch like really helps you build and strengthen your self-concept of being a queen or being like, you know, the next in line, the crown prince or the crown princess or the crown queen, that sort of concept. And I found that really interesting. I have always felt connected to my ancestors, especially when they're passing and approaching death. And I have often felt like it's really important for me to connect with my grandparents. And I'll probably share more about this later, but two of my other grandmothers, so both my grandparents' grandfathers remarried. So two of my Omas were like, they're my angels and they're all about luxury. They're always the ones telling me to like be like, yes, buy that thing, yes, that's delicious, yes, do that. Especially like when the rest of the family isn't quite so like open to just having a good experience and like not even thinking about money. Luckily for my Oma, her second husband really treated her like a princess. Anyway, I digress. So I do little activities, I do little rituals and ceremonies for my angels, for my family angels, and a lot of the time it is feasting. It is going to a beautiful place, enjoying a beautiful sweet treat that I know that they would have adored. And I know that they're with me. And oftentimes I will actually bring a candle, like one of these pillar candles, light it, sip my champagne, eat my delicious food, which is usually dessert. All my Omas are like sweet tooths. And then journal, write a letter to them, and then blow out the candle, and that's done. That's the rituals ended. So it's really interesting to think more about how can I connect with my living grandparent. And I haven't spent that much time with her, to be honest. We didn't grow up in the same country. We didn't grow up in the same state. We would see her once a year, maybe for Christmas, and we would often stay with her. But also she was raised, you know, quite British. She grew up in rural New South Wales, and her expression is very withheld. So the fact that she said that our day together at the Yarra Valley was great means like outstanding. Because normally it's like, oh, it's okay, or oh, it was good, but like The word great, I've never heard her use the word great. So I was really open to the idea of getting to be in the energy of the matriarch. Be in the energy of, just opening and being receptive to something that she could teach me that I don't know what she could, because like logically, I don't really want the life she had, but there are some bits that I love about it. Some bits I adore. As we were driving down, and the weather on Thursday was amazing, 20 degrees, sunshine, beautiful. So we're driving up, just an hour from Melbourne. And she's telling me about how she used to drive to a beautiful wine region in northwest New South Wales, and they'd, with her girlfriends, and they'd stay in a B&B, and they'd just like booze up and brunch and bitch and chat and just do all those things. And I didn't know that. Like, it's really interesting the stories that come out when there are certain visual cues for her or certain experiential cues for her. So my proposed day was 1 or 2 wineries and tastings. She drinks wine like a fish. She drinks like 2 bottles or 3 bottles a week by herself. But she's not really that interested. She doesn't need the wine to be good. She just likes a light, clean Sauvignon Blanc or an SSB. She likes the light, fruity, clean white. So it was interesting to sort of take her to an experience that I knew that she might not really like, or she might get a bit bored. And she's also going a bit deaf. So I was acting as like translator and facilitator and guide, and just I was the masculine structure for her, and I wanted to be of service to her in that way. But what I really loved were the moments where I could just tap into the feminine energies, look at the beauty, enjoy the beauty, just luxuriate, sit in the sun, and just have a great day. So we arrived, I checked what the restaurant sort of situation was, and so we went for the 2-course meal with a free tasting afterwards. We sat in the sun for a bit. That was lovely. So nice. Smelt the beautiful country Yarra Valley air, and we did that for about 10-15 minutes, then went over to the restaurant, and I just explained that, we're interested in this. We don't have a booking, and we were the first people to be seated, which was like, that was really special. I don't know why, but like just the idea and being the first people to be seated in a beautiful sort of winery restaurant was lovely. We had a very nice table and a full view of like grass, and there were some cows, but behind that was like some mountains, and they were just delightful to look at. So I'm there helping her understand the menu, suggesting things, because she's quite British in her tastes, and then helping her choose a wine. Once the details were out of the way, and once we'd ordered, it was just really interesting. She is quite an anxious person, and I could sense that sometimes. But, some of the things that she was saying, like while we were waiting, we walked past a little water feature outside the restaurant. And she sort of just said like, oh, where are the fish? I just think it's so beautiful that she would think that every water feature would have fish in it. But it was also just like her childlike wonder, and that just approach to everything was just really nice. Like, she wasn't grumpy. She wasn't necessarily peppy, but she was just like, she was in observation mode, enjoying the sunshine. I was pointing out things for her to look at, and we were just enjoying that. her taste has gone because she's 97. I know, she's pretty good. Still independent, lives in her own home. And yeah, we had our beautiful meal. I remember her looking at the charcoal salt that was sprinkled on top of the whipped butter. She's like, what's this? Looks like candy. And it was just really delightful. And then she realized it was salt, even though I told her. But I love that, like she had to experience it to actually realize. And some people might say that, you know, that's a symptom of age. And maybe it is, but I just found that to be quite like a very sensuous way of reacting, very sensual reaction. Not to just believe it, but to have to experience it, to know it. I absolutely loved my Cuveé, a sparkling white wine. Oh my God, it was fruity. Like, actually it wasn't too fruity, it was crisp, floral, had a lovely little like swirl of sweetness, but it wasn't too sweet. It was so good. It was such a beautiful meal, and I wasn't expecting it to be like that. She was sharing stories about how her and her besties would go out for lunch. And again, like, these are stories I haven't heard before. I mean, there were some stories that came up again that I had heard, but yeah, to just learn a little bit more about her and the girls at Wine was really beautiful. Afterwards, we sat in the sunshine, watched some blue wrens, and then she just started talking about all the different trees. She was saying, this is something I've heard often in the last few weeks, but the fact that like Australian trees are like larrikins. They're not straight up and down. They're not beautiful, and they're not British or English trees. They're larrikins, and they're like squiggly, and they're wayward, and you know, branches are higgledy-piggledy and all that sort of stuff. And I guess in the setting, it really sat differently. To be sitting, looking at a well-groomed garden, to be adoring some blue wrens. I just love blue wrens so much. And yeah, I have a deeper respect for the fact that in age, we go back to the child. We go back to the ways of the sensual child. We went for our wine tasting, and we had some amazing, I hope they were sommeliers. I assume that's their job title. And we shared some tastings of the sparkling range they have. Delicious. So the one I had at lunch, a sparkling rosé, which was quite nice, and then a crème de Cuveé, which was described as like Christmas morning sparkling wine to have with croissants and butter, because it was spiced. It was so good. Like, oh my God. Ended up taking that one home. And then we tried like the best Chardonnay I've probably ever had. I'm not really into Chardonnay. I don't like the yeasty, buttery sort of flavors of Chardonnay. But this, they said it was multi-layered, and it was multi-layered, and it was quite nice. Yeah, quite nice. I don't really like yeasty flavored things. And then I had some reds. So beautiful. My matriarch had some more whites because she's not interested in reds. So the Yarra Valley is known for Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. And this winery is Pinot Noir, Yering Station Winery. Their Pinot Noir is like, it was just so delightful. Strawberry, berry, cherry. It's just, yeah, so light and super fruity. So good. I really want to buy some. I think it'd be an amazing gift for some of my friends. And then their Grenache, just spiced, reminds me of mulled wine. Be amazing with duck. I mean, I need more excuses to eat duck and bake duck, so I think I need to buy that wine too. And then just, yeah, hearing some of the stories about the vineyards. The fact that the shiraz and the viogner are grown next to each other. The viogner is a white grape, and I think it makes up 3% of that wine. But they ripen at the same time, so they harvest them at the same time, and they go into the same wine. And I just love that, like, togetherness approach to wine. I just love the cyclical nature of, like, winemaking as well. The sommelier that was serving us towards the end of our tasting, she was saying that she could taste wine from the same case, so either 12 or 24 bottles, a few months apart, and the wine would taste different. And that is just such an exciting thing. I love that so much. Just the idea that it's not just the artistry and the skills of the winemakers that creates a beautiful beverage. It's also time. And if you are patient, you get to experience multitudes of flavors and flavor differences and tweaks and stuff. Oh, I just freaking love it so much. One of my event ideas for Velvet and Truth is to do like a wine wild woman sort of event. And initially I thought it'd have to be a retreat because wine, probably not responsible, and I probably wouldn't feel good sending women home after that. So there will definitely be some wine themed events coming up soon, either in Perth or Melbourne or yeah, somewhere else. And I actually used to work on a winery cruise in Perth, which has the Swan River, and then the Swan Valley Winery, which is well known for its Chenin Blanc. We would take on passengers at like 8:30, 8:40. We would do a flight of wine tastings with them. And I loved giving the wine speech where it's like you twirling the wine glass, you're looking at the color, you're looking at the legs, you're smelling it, having a little sip, aerating it, and just sipping again, and just like enjoying the development of flavor. It was so me. And then we'd arrive in the Swan Valley, they'd have a beautiful lunch and wine tasting at Sandalford Winery, which is where Leonard Cohen performed in his last world tour. It's an amazing, like, hilly sort of natural amphitheatre as well. And then they'd come back and we'd just be serving wine and other things. I'd sing for like 15 minutes as well on this cruise. There were times where I could supervise the lunch at Sandalford Winery. And so I'd just be listening to what the sommeliers and what the wine tasting guides were telling my customers and looking at the colours. Sometimes, I think someone let me have a smell once. That was very, very kind of them. And it was really beautiful. Like, I'm just so fascinated by the grape. What a beautiful gift nature has given us. And then the last wine I tried, actually I tried the same wine from 2 different years. It was a Cabernet Sauvignon. I had a 2022 and a 2017 tasting. The difference was huge. Like, so, it was mind-blowing. So the young one, the 2022 one, I could taste the sap or the resin from the oak. It had been like oak barrel aged for 8 months or something. I could taste like the sap or the resin on the oak. And I was like, this is so bizarre, but like also quite interesting. It's got a very like young, like alive tree flavor. That's how I would have described it if I didn't know what it was. And obviously a Cabernet Sauvignon is an amazing with food red wine. And then the 2017, it would have been so good with dark. And I was explaining this back to the sommelier. I was like, this is my experience of these two wines, tasting them and sipping them side by side. And thank you so much for this opportunity. It was like so beautiful and so educational. And then the way I described the 2017 Cabernet Sauvignon was like, just be amazing with dark. And she was like, yes, that's very succinct. That's a great way of describing it. And so I felt so full at the end of that wine tasting. My gift of taste doesn't often get the airtime and the focus time that I would really love to give it. And that's often because the space and the access to beautifully curated, beautifully crafted foods or wines or simple products, and just the time that it might, the thought that it would take to sort of do that. And so I really did adore my week of Sensual Scorpio celebrations, where I was like pairing teas with different cheeses and pairing teas with other things and tea with salami. And I really did enjoy that initial taste where I tried some cheese and I had to describe it. And I had to tell you how it was different to this other cheese. And for me, that is one of the most purest moments of presence. I am in here. My thoughts, my attention are here and here. Like it's one of the few things that really gets me into my body. And I know that this experience I have with taste and smell and all my senses, when I have the beautiful space, the access to the beautiful produce, is something that other women are missing out on. Yeah, I'm very excited for my upcoming events, which please do stay tuned for. I've got two announcing soon. So at the end of the day, it was just a beautiful, really beautiful experience. And even though my grandma, she wasn't really that interested in the different types of wine, like the wine tastings was probably more for me, but she was a good sport and she got to try some new wines, and her taste buds are aged. So her ability to discern, what tastes like this and what tastes like that was reduced. I would still do it again. Yeah. I did want to go to another winery for another tasting, but she was getting tired. So of course I drove her home, and it was quite nice. I told her that she could sleep. I could adjust her chair for her. She could lie back. She's like, no, I want to look at the sky. No, I want to look at the treetops. So again, it's just another practice, she's just constantly reminding me to be present, to be sensual, to be where I am, and to find the beauty in where I am. She lives on a street near a creek, and she's told me that she sits at the front and she counts how many different types of trees there are. And no one's taught her this. No one's taught her sensual practices. And I'm so glad for her that she has these things. And then the other day I was deadheading her Banksia. She came out the front and she was like, I just love the leaves. I love these leaves so much. I think they're so beautiful. They're so perfect. And again, I was like, sort of like, who is this woman? Because the way I was raised to know her is like stiff upper lip grandmother who won't tell me that she loves me, but like will give me a pat on the shoulder or a pat on the head. Yeah, I'm just so grateful that I got to have this experience with her and shift my perception of her and the way that she interacts with the world. She's very connected with nature. When she studied pharmacology, it was herbs. Like, it was herbs. And she's got a few books on herbology and aromatherapy. She doesn't have a green thumb, but she loved the medicinal properties of living things. So I can see that like there are some hints to sensuality in her life from being a young woman. And I really want to focus on that while she's alive, once she's passed. I don't know if she'll be one of my angels or not. There was a really soul-filling, heart-filling experience I had at the Yarra Valley with my matriarch. I'll be sharing a few more stories with you in the coming weeks. If you have any questions, please do leave a comment. I'd love to keep the conversation going. Tell me about your grandmother. Tell me one thing that she does that you think is very sensual. Tell me how you want to relate. Tell me how you want to teach, your grandchildren, when you have them, how to be sensual. And would it even be taught through words, or is it just taught through action and reflection? Lots of love.